It is good to be here at Toad Hill Farms.
Hi, Senator Warren. I wanted to ask you about Ken Cuccinelli and his rewriting, I guess, of the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty. His recitation of that poem was, "Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge." And then he went on CNN last night and he said that the original poem was referring back to people coming from Europe where they had class-based societies. What do you make of his interpretation?
He's wrong. And this is just one more way in which Donald Trump and his folks want to make America work better and better and better for those at the top and kick dirt in everyone else's face. That's not how we build a stronger America. It's not how we build a stronger economy. It's not how we make our country safer. And it's certainly not how we live up to our best.
Senator Warren, it seems like
Senator Warren, your college affordability came up a lot during this town hall. Actually, New Hampshire has some of the highest student debt rates in the country. And so in your student debt cancellation plan, you talk about canceling student debt for those who make under $100,000 and some for those making under $250,000. My question to you is, why not make it universal?
So, as you know, canceling student loan debt is powerfully important for me personally. I was able to get a 4-year diploma without debt because taxpayers had invested in a commuter college that would cost $50 a semester. That option is not there anymore, and so part one of this plan is to build that option again. So people will have the opportunity to go to technical school, community college, or 4-year college, and they can do it tuition free, and Pell Grants for those who need more help. Also investing $50 billion in historically black colleges and universities so we truly level the playing field. For those who have student loan debt right now, it's important that we find a way to get rid of most of that student loan debt. I look very carefully at the numbers, and something that concerns me is whenever we start moving into economic areas that we pay attention not just to the big picture, but also the picture around race and what happens to different racial groups. We have a huge black-white wealth gap in America and very few signs that we can close that gap. The numbers I picked will give relief to 23 million Americans, but it will also help close the racial wealth gap. By going with higher numbers, the weight of the evidence shows that we run the risk of expanding the black-white wealth gap. So I believe when we're working in an area like this, we've got to be really careful about the way we
talk about the inverted yield curve.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, thanks. Can I say your tweet about Michael Brown from Ferguson? You said that he was murdered by Darren Wilson despite a DOJ report which did not find that. Law enforcement officers find that some say disrespectful. Can you offer your reaction to that?
What matters is that a man was shot, an unarmed man, in the middle of the street by police officers and left to die. And I think that's where our focus should be. It is the 5th anniversary of that occurring, and we need to talk about how to make real change in this country. I have a more comprehensive plan coming out in just a little bit later, but I think that's where we've got to keep our focus.
Senator Warren,
Last question. Talking about the end to the filibuster, Joe Biden has said he's not for it. You tweeted yesterday about it. Could you elaborate on that tweet?
So, look, I'm going to Washington not just to talk about change, but to make change. And I watched as Mitch McConnell kept change from happening over and over and over during the Obama years. And I think it's time to take that tool away from the Republicans. They have used it to keep us from doing the people's business. You know, just look, for example, at guns. I was in Washington in 2013 when there was a vote on reasonable background checks and taking assault weapons off the street. 54 senators voted in favor of that. 46 voted against it. In any democracy, that would mean it had passed, but not in the United States Senate. Instead, what happened was that the bill failed, and here we are, 5 years, 6 years later, mass shooters, more assault weapons on the street than ever before, and no real progress toward doing reasonable background checks. We cannot let the filibuster block us from doing the people's business. And by the way, I particularly recommend the op-ed that former Majority Leader Harry Reid wrote yesterday, a man who knows the Senate as well as anyone, and he said it's time to get rid of the filibuster. I agree with Senator Reid.
Senator Moore, any comment on the inverted yield curve?
Do you believe that you're attacking your gun plan, which would raise taxes on firearms?